LibraIRC Collections 2. So here we have an incredible IRC server, LibraIRC. And let me just read to you what I can see on my screen right now. Where Luca has said, "I don't get feelings, I'm heartless." Hop has said, "I was the thought sick mistaken." It's just like, is it worth reading this? I'm not sure. Although, what input do I give to a chat room, really? What input do you give to a chat room? Can you honestly say to yourself that your time spent in a chat room on IRC has had depth, meaning, and brought bonds in the world? That ranting perhaps about Trump for 3 hours a day changed voters' minds globally. It's just, is this where it's at? Let's look at myself, for example, spending all day on IRC some days. Well, a lot of the time I'm on IRC, just watching, reading it. And sometimes, yes, I've fallen into a depression because I haven't read anything intelligent for over 3 hours, or even longer. Not even from myself. I couldn't muster a single intelligent thought. And I honestly blame it on chat itself. I blame chat rooms for making me stupider. It is quite possible that if you read Jung, or you read Shakespeare, or you read even William Gibson every day, you would become more intelligent. But I'm telling you, if you read chat rooms every day, you may get stupider. You may become so stupid you can barely function without a cup of coffee and a cigarette. You may sit there staring at your screen for hours in despair at the world. You may need to be on drugs or alcohol to cope, or some kind of heavy medication to cope with the kind of levels of intellect that LibraIRC has. But it's not just LibraIRC, let's face it. You can go pretty much anywhere in any social media and find the same kind of stuff. Because I had a theory that if a person was intelligent and had something to say, they probably wouldn't come to an IRC chat room and say it. They'd probably write a book. And they certainly, if they had something to say, wouldn't be making a YouTube video about having nothing to say. So what do I have to say about chat rooms? Not much at the moment, to be honest, because what I'm reading has no inspiration, nothing that I can kind of grow from. Like, I need to grow like a pretty flower, but chat rooms just are so void of meaning, so void of creativity. Half the time it's just guys trying to get sex and people fighting and people just being retarded. Even mentally disabled people in the world might have something better to do with their lives than spend it on chat. I swear to you, my IQ has dropped at least 20 points in the last 10 years of finding IRC, and I don't think it's ever going to regrow unless I do read intellectual texts. But this is another thing I found, that by reading these 5-word text lines, and that's all they are usually, right? You become ADD or ADHD. Like, you can't actually read a sentence longer than 5 or 4 words. It's too much for you. You know, you read it like your vehicle registration papers, and it's got like a couple of paragraphs about it on the back, how you pay it, and you're like, oh, this is exhausting. I don't know if I can read all this. It's just like, this is a lot of words. These are sentences, are like long sentences, man. They're at least 50 words, oh, not 50 maybe, or sometimes. At least 20 words long. I can't read 20 words in one hit anymore, because I've been reading lines of text that are 3, 4, 5 words long, like little bits of words, one at a time, and it does create some kind of attention deficit disorder. Another thing I've noticed is how you'll put voices to what you're reading. In university, when I'd studied, they talked about having a writer's voice. Like a writer has a voice, or needs to find a voice. And I think that's true when you read things. You kind of, like, if you were reading a male writer and had a male name, you would put a male voice to it. You know, because you know that's a male that's writing this, so the narrator, you know, you think must be a male voice. But it could be a woman with a male name. But you'll put a voice onto words, whether it be your own voice or somebody else's voice or another voice. So when you see someone like Knight Errant say, you are banned, you might put on a deep voice. But when you see someone like Reluca or Baby Girl say, that is nice, it's like, that is nice. Yeah, it's a female voice to it. If you, maybe sometimes you're putting a female voice on a guy because he's tricking you, and you've messaged him and he's under a female nickname, right? So when you're reading his text, because he's got like a name like Tracy, you might be putting a female voice to it. And if he's saying like, I will show you my boobs, you're hearing this female voice in your head say, I will show you my boobs. You're putting this voice onto text. I don't think it necessarily is like in the text itself. It's not really possible that text can, or you'd be pretty crazy to think that text itself could hold a voice that you could hear. It's not really about that. It's just about this projection of what you kind of expect from the language you're reading. You're kind of expecting a girl to sound like a girl and a guy to sound like a girl. If they've got a really daggy name, you might put a more daggy voice. If they've got a really macho name, you might put a much more macho voice. I mean, it's also the words they choose. That's the writer's voice, is not so much hearing a voice necessarily, but kind of like a macho character, like Steel Horse, right? Steel Horse. That's a very macho name. So if he says something misogynist, you know, it has this kind of macho, misogynist kind of tone to it, so you kind of expect what he looks like even. You actually think, oh, he's going to be like this big guy with like a hairy chest that wears workers' clothes or something, right? And you see another guy called Hop, and you're thinking this guy might be like, you know, he's saying, I'm fat and I've got a belly, and underneath is the private part. I mean, you might assume that he's some kind of real weird looking dude with like a wonky eye or something that's kind of bit kind of disabled. But isn't it funny what we assume about chat rooms and the people in them? I mean, you can act, you can fake it, you can be a troll, you can pretend to be someone you're not, you can lie, you can cheat, you can have a persona, you can say the truth, you can say a lie, and no one knows the difference. I think they do. But do they? If you're lying but they think you're telling the truth, or you're telling the truth and they think you're lying, and there's this presence of people in the chat room, they get these reputations, they get these auras about them, like the girls get all the guys after them just because they have a female nickname. If they're active in the chat room, they get a lot of attention. Some women have told me that women think they are a guy. They're a woman, but women think they are the guy. So, you know, it goes both ways.